Hey everyone, Dr. Chesrop is here. My name is Grandmaster Robert Takasari, and it's my first video on YouTube. So wish me good luck and hope you will enjoy this video. I wanted to start talking about the openings, and I wanted to start talking particular about this opening. So the name of his opening is John Sicilian. I'm just kidding. It's the Sicilian Defense. It's I don't know if Johnson is playing chess and plays the Sicilian. Have no clue. So, but I wanted to talk about the Sicilian. Why I wanted to start with this opening? Because first of all, I played it for like 10 years, and it's quite interesting. Let's say now let's go for the advertisement part. So I wanted to start with it because if you want to play for a win, you want to get something sharp, like ruthless. The Sicilian is for you, and there is a bit history about it. Like back then, everybody was trying to play, or really, let's say by the rules. Sometimes like copycatting each other, playing, for example, e4, e5. The Spanish or Ruy Lopez, Italian, etc. And then the modern like chess era had arisen. So it was like the Nimza Indian, and then the King's Indian, the Grunfeld, and of course the Sicilian, some other like openings as well. So the main idea was to try to play for a win at all costs for both sides. And it became extremely famous because Bobby Fischer and Garry Kasparov, who are in the position to be considered as the greatest of all times with Magnus Carlsen, started to play this opening as well. So let's go and let's see what's going on here. So the first move is e5. I'm going to flip the board because mostly I will talk about the plans from black side, but we'll try to understand what white is trying to do. First of all, let's try to understand why the move e4 is made. So the idea is to take the center as soon as possible. The f5 and d5 squares are very important. White will open up the bishop so the bishop can jump to the c4 square. And of course, we have the queen that is opened as well. So the bishop and the queen can come together and start an attack on the king side. So we know that we have different moves. As I mentioned, there is the move like e5, there is the move like c6, and for example, e6, like French defense, Caro-Kann, e4, e5 with the Italian Ruy Lopez, but we will try to understand what's going to happen with the move c5. So the idea is to play a bit more like imbalanced position compared to the e5 move. We want to take the d4 square, that's very important. We want to open up the queen, that's very important as well. And also we will try to bring the knight later on and then try to get these two squares, the e5 and the d4 under control. Again, remember that if you want to play for a win, it's better to play non-symmetrical positions. So c5 can be usually a better option, especially on the let's say low level, average level players. So the top level theory is a bit different, but for that level, let's say starting from 500 until like 2000 or sometimes even a bit more on chess.com, you can play this line and it can be quite successful. Now let's try to understand the intro part and what's going to happen with different lines, and then we will try to uncover all of them one by one. So first of all, the main move, a knight f3. This is the open Sicilian. We can call it like a classic. The main idea is fast development, center control, and trying to push d4 in order to open the game. So again, develop, center control, the e5 and d4 squares, and white wants to push d4. Some coaches back then, earlier there, would say that they will, as a joke, of course, they would stop doing the lessons with us if we don't play this move because it's the only best move. I can understand why. Of course, it's the one that is played like the most often. Very good move to play for a win as white, but we'll cover it later. So the other more common way to play is the move pawn c3. It's called a lapping variation. So the process, you want to take the center and you want to not just get the knight on d4, but replace the pawn on d4 with the other pawn. And after this, you will get a good control over the 5 central or paracentral, let's say, squares from f5 to c5 or c5 to f5. So this is very interesting, overlapping. But the cons is that you will not get the knight to c3, and in some positions it's going to be quite important because white will have like a slower development. The next one that I want to talk about is the knight c3. This one is called like close Sicilian. For some players it's considered as a bit boring, but it's very like a strategical. The main idea is to get more like close type positions. Later on, white will try to do either bishop c4, pawn g3 with bishop g2, maybe. Sometimes they play a more like active sharp move f4, which is the Grand Prix attack. We will talk about it later. So the next one is the Cherniak attack. So if you want to do the fianchetto of the bishop, this can be quite interesting because the bishop will come to b2 and then immediately attack the king side, the pawn on g7. Very interesting way to play, but the cons is like not too much attention towards the center, and sometimes it can be like some sort of I would say waste of time, because maybe we will change our plans and this bishop on b2 will not be that good. The pawn on b3 will not make much sense. So the next one is the move bishop c4, which is the Bodler attack. But if you want to memorize it in an easier way, let's call it a bishop line. It's calm, very easy to play. I would recommend it to play as white if you just started, because this e4, bishop f4, knight f3 setup will be used against different openings like this. The main idea is just to develop, do fast short castle, later on bring the pawn to d3, have an easy strategical game. But it's not sharp, so there are not big risks for both sides, so it's quite good for black too. So the next move is the move like pawn to g3. It's called like Lasker attack. And again, the idea is to try to play more close positions, bring the bishop to g2, later on like the knight to c3, and that can transpose to the closed Sicilian with this, which is like second move knight c3. But in some positions, this can be more flexible because we can still try to do like c3 and then d4 and then fight for the center, so the knight will not be on c3. But again, there are pros and cons after each move. Just remember that black has a chance to play immediately d5. We will talk about it later. Knight d2 is the move which was played by Keres. It's called Keres variation. Quite interesting. The main idea is that it's very flexible, so white can try to go to the open Sicilian. White can try to move to some kind of a lap-in. White can try to play like b3 bishop, then b2. White can try to bring the bishop to g2. But of course, the cons is that this knight will never ever come back to f3. So it will be harder to play the classical lines. And, you know, a bit like sharper, a bit crazy, sometimes insane openings lines that can happen. So I will start with the move b4. We'll come back to a3 later. This one is called wing gambit. But don't think about the Red Bull, so this will not give you wings. You need to be very careful here. Some positions maybe will get you those wings, because you can create a very interesting position, and of course a really good initiative there. So the main idea is to sacrifice the pawn on b4. If like c captures b4, then you do d4, will take the center, or play a3 first, captures, and then bishop takes a3. Knight a3 is a possibility too, but bishop a3, it's harder for black to do the development, because after e6 takes, we can't like do the normal castling anymore. We need to do an artificial castling. So this can be an interesting approach for you know, white. And later on we will try to do the move d4, knight f3, maybe even c4, play on the queen side, center, sometimes even king side. This is really interesting. But of course, the cons is we will give up the pawn. So you want something out of the opening right here, right now, something very important. The center just pay. So, you know, we pay a lot in life. We want something really important, really good. So the same thing is here, the move b4. The next one is f4, which is called McDonald attack. It's a bit similar to the King's Gambit, or I will come back to it just in a few seconds. So the main idea is to take as many squares that are closer to the center and also on the king side. Then the idea is to bring the knight to f3, bishop to c4, do short castle, later on push this pawns up, start a very massive strong attack on the king side. But of course, the cons is that you opened up your own king, and also you opened up this diagonal from a7 to g1, and in some positions white can't even castle. It's called McDonald attack. So the e4, e5, f4 is called the king's gambit. So this c5 Sicilian and then f4 move, or immediate knight c3 and let's say d6, f4, which is the Grand Prix attack, are quite similar to that. The idea is the same. Play this romantic chess from the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries and try to play for a checkmate, try to go for an attack. Very interesting way to play. I would recommend such stuff in blitz games, especially, blitz and bullet. So, and the last one is like the move a3, which is called Mangarini variation. I would call it like safe wing gambit. So pros is that you will try to move b4 and you will not exchange, you will try to exchange the pawns, but you will not sacrifice it. For example, after d6, b4 takes, later on you can have most of your pawns or all of your pawns on the fourth rank, take the center, take the queen side completely. But it's very important to understand that this move is a bit like slower, and black has their own ways to counter it. And get a normal position. It's called Mangarini. We can call it a safe wing gambit. So this is the first part of the video, the intro part. Hope you enjoyed it. And how do they say it? Like, please subscribe or follow, like it. So I wish you all have a great day, and we will continue the series in the next videos. So see you there.